I am Tammy Beilstein. Welcome to Tammy's Window on Calaveras. Tonight I have with me David Sackman. He is from the Suicide Prevention Group over at Behavioral Health, which is all part of mental health here in Calaveras County. We're going to talk tonight about suicide. Teens, adults, all of it. There's a lot to it.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much for being here, David. I'm so glad you're here.
Thanks for having me.
I know that suicide in Calaveras County is a huge problem, bigger than most counties, right?
It's not so much in numbers, but in when you look at rates,
Yes.
suicide rates. Our suicide rate is about double that rate in California.
Wow.
Now that's the percentages, so we're talking really small numbers. We have a small population.
Right, right.
But it's still something that's a significant issue.
Yeah. Why do you think it is higher here than it is in other counties?
We have several factors that are risk factors. So we have a higher percentage of older adults, and older adults, particularly older white males, are at high risk. And we're a rural county, and one thing with the rural counties, we have lots of people with firearms, and many people use firearms for suicide, and that's a very effective means, unfortunately.
Very final.
And very final. And there's also a lot of poverty. So.
And while you're talking, one of the things I was thinking about is how it's probably hard for a lot of people to get over to mental health or to get to the hospital or to some place where they can meet with someone to speak about their issues. We're also spread out. Yeah.
Right, and transportation is definitely a barrier in small rural counties.
Yeah.
And there's also a lot of stigma and concern about talking about it.
Yeah.
The topic of suicide or the topic of mental health or mental illness, or concerns about, well, I don't want to be weak. I think it's really important for people to understand it takes a lot of strength to seek help and to admit, I've run out of my resources, I need some additional support and help.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that I've thought of, we own guns in our home, and when I went to the doctor not that long ago, one of the questions they asked me was, do I ever have thoughts of suicide, and do we own guns? And I didn't even want to tell them the answers to those things because I was afraid that if it's on a record somewhere, are we not going to be allowed to have guns, or could I not get a concealed carry permit someday if I want to, or I didn't know what they would do with that sort of thing. And
I think that's really part of a trend for the healthcare profession and field they're doing a lot more screening for depression.
Yeah.
And so they're looking for risk factors. Guns are a risk factor insofar as many people use them for suicide. And so I assume they ask you some questions about, have you felt depressed?
Right, and it was weird because I didn't even want to answer. I felt like I even if I was, I don't want them to know.
Yeah, and that's a very normal response. Like you said, like you said, you didn't want them to know, probably for a variety of reasons. Some of it's kind of like, well, that doesn't feel like it's any of your business.
Right, right.
But it's suicide is also it's a very high cost part of the healthcare industry. About 670,000 people a year attempt suicide, and so the costs of the healthcare industry are millions and millions and millions, helping people who survive their suicide attempt. And also, that's strictly looking at it from a money angle, but looking at it from the human angle, you want to help people before they hurt themselves, because a lot of times people will attempt and they won't kill themselves, but they may permanently injure themselves.
Yeah.
And also, if they've attempted, there's also a lot of stigma and shame that will sometimes go along with that, because people may look at them differently. There's plenty of survivors that there's no visible outside evidence, but it's still a concern.
Yeah. So if someone were to have a doctor appointment and say, yes, I've been depressed, or yes, I have had thoughts of suicide, what happens with that info? Do they call you?
They won't necessarily call us. They'll start in their own, unless the person is saying, yes, I'm suicidal and I want to kill myself right now, then they would call the crisis.
Okay.
I'm sure they would arrange for the person to be evaluated and assessed at the hospital for hospitalization.
What does
which would
that
be
look
done.
like when that happens?
Well, in Calaveras County, people are transported to the Mark Twain ER, and generally our crisis staff person will be contacted by dispatch, because most often people are transported by the Sheriff's Department or Angels Police Department if it's in the City of
Okay.
Angels camp, unless they're medically compromised or they've already attempted and there's a medical issue, then they'll be brought in by ambulance. Sometimes family members will bring them in also, in which case the hospital will call us directly, our crisis line, and ask for a worker to come down to do an evaluation.
Okay. Is it like you have a checkoff list in front of you and you're asking them questions? Is that what an evaluation looks like?
We don't exactly have that sort of a list. I mean, we do have a list of all the forms that we have to fill out, but
Right.
for the evaluation, we do a lot of training for folks, and they're certified to do crisis evaluations, and we're doing annual certifications. So we
Okay.
do a training, we go through risk factors and handle and discuss potential scenarios and what would you be concerned about here. So
Okay.
they're well trained, they ask a lot of questions, identify risk factors and support factors, and assess the person's seriousness. I mean, we assess their intent, and often when I was for example, evaluating a crisis, I'll ask a person to what's called scaling. I ask them, so on a scale of 1 to 10, how serious are you about killing yourself?
Okay.
With a 10 being, I'm very serious, I want to do it right now, and 1 being, well, the thought crossed my mind.
Yeah. Wow.
And so if they say they're at a 5, then we'll talk and we'll really focus on on what's going on, what kind of support that they have, things that they've tried. And then I may ask them the same question later on. And if the one goes down from a
Okay.
5 to a 2, then I know that we're moving in the right direction.
Right.
If they say I'm at a 5, or as a result of our conversation I feel even worse, now I'm at an 8,
Yeah.
then the outcome's very different.
Yeah.
If it goes down, we can look at developing a safety plan and involving family members or friends or things like
good.
that, people who can take them home, talk about follow-up services. If they're already receiving services, get them in as quickly as possible
Yeah.
to say, okay, wow, looks like maybe we need to give
Yeah.
you a booster,
Right.
so to speak.
That actually sounds very nice, not scary in any way. It sounds like you're
that-
strong,
that's-
compassionate people, and
That's what, yeah. and
you'd be my go-to guy. I'd want to talk to someone like you.
And that's what we would like. That's how we see our role, is really to support people.
Yeah.
We're all going to have a hard time.
Yeah.
I think it's really important for people, if you're having a really bad time, one way that people end up in the hospital is that they'll talk about, I feel like killing myself. A lot of times what people really mean is, I'm having the worst day of my life,
Yeah.
and I don't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
I would strongly recommend that you be very direct and say that instead. Say, wow, I'm having a really bad day, I don't know what to do with it, I need some help. Rather than saying, I feel like killing myself. Because that may get you a ride from the sheriff and a whole lot of other stuff. That's not necessarily going to be really as helpful. I mean, if it gets you down to us and we can help you, that's great. But if you can bypass that step and just come in, because we do have, at behavioral health and the mental health program, we have a worker of the day that's available all through business hours, so you can walk in at any time.
Oh, good. Okay.
Anybody, if you're in distress, you can come in
Okay.
and talk to us, and we'll work out a plan, help you work out a plan so that you feel better, or get you connected to services or resources as best we can.
Right. I read somewhere, probably on Facebook, that our county has had 6 or 7 suicides since September, since the fires. And I know that they're not all fire-related suicides. It's probably come from a lot of different issues, but that's so sad, and it's incredible. And I understand that the people that are left behind have so many questions.
It's a very difficult thing for survivors
Is your,
to make sense of it.
Is your agency over there able to work with survivors of suicide also?
They can certainly come in and we'll get them connected
Okay.
to resources.
Yeah.
Hospice has Grief Busters,
Uh-huh.
and there's some other support groups. There's actually, I have some information in here. In Tuolumne County right now, there's a group for survivors of suicide. There has been one in Calaveras County, but it's my understanding
I don't think
that
it's here anymore, right?
I think the person facilitating it has had some medical issues and other
Okay.
complications in their life, so they
Okay.
haven't been able to do it. So, but I have the information. We have information on
Okay.
the group in Tuolumne County that's very active, and
Yeah.
they people can get a hold of them and get on their email list, and
Very good.
they'll send out the dates of their meetings and things like that.
Speaking of Grief Buster, so many of you probably know this already, but so I work with Hospice of Amador and Calaveras with the Grief Buster program, which means that we work with kids 5 through 19 who are grieving the death of someone they love. And I know that we have seen very young kids who have said, like what you said, I feel like killing myself, because it's just the phrase that gets the attention, it gets their feelings out, because they might not know exactly what it is that they're feeling or how to deal with it. Do you find that some very young kids have come in to see you? It'd have to be through their parent or a teacher or someone to contact you.
Yeah, generally it's through parents or teachers, and the schools really are good. They'll contact the
Okay.
parents. And we've seen a number of kids, younger kids, that have had suicidal ideation.
Yeah. It seems to me, and I don't have any facts or anything, but it just seems to me that the kids who have those thoughts are the ones who had a parent or sibling die by suicide. Does that
That's certainly
seem to
a
be the case
risk.
to
That's
you?
a risk factor. Sometimes there's kids struggling with depression or other issues going on in their life, and like you said, the phrase "I feel like killing myself" gets a lot of attention.
Yeah.
And in this case, that's a good thing, because you know they're asking for help, and we want to get them the help that they need and help them determine. Suicide's probably not the answer to your problem.
Right.
Let's come up with something that's going to work better for you.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's a very permanent solution,
It
unfortunately.
is. And I know when you're young, especially, you, for one thing, kids don't have the life experience to know that, yeah, you're going to go through some really sucky times, but there will be some really great times following.
Right.
You'll get through it. And it's so, for so many of them, even thinking 5 minutes ahead, they just don't do it. They're so in the moment. And what they feel is that
Impulsivity, yeah.
hormones, everything. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just, there's so much to it. It's so sad.
Yeah, impulsivity is a big risk factor
Yeah.
for young kids and young adults. They, like you said, they get caught up they have really strong feelings. They get caught up in their feelings without sort of being able to think through, okay, I'm going to make it through. You know, yes, a lot of times for young adults, it's a relationship issue
Right.
or a series of bad events,
Yeah.
and they're just like, I can't deal with this.
Right.
You know, I've lost my job, I lost my girlfriend, boyfriend,
Yeah.
my car's been repossessed,
Yeah.
all my friends hate me now.
Right.
And you get caught up and if you have some inclination towards depression and you start awfulizing, well, everything's horrible, or you just come under the influence of depression and you don't have energy and you feel bad about yourself and
Yeah.
start thinking
And it just
a
goes
lot
in
of
a
negative self-talk.
spiral.
And
Yeah.
it goes in a spiral.
When I'll be honest with you, when I was about 16, I had thought about it and I tried suicide. I took a bunch of pills, and then I got scared. Sorry.
It's okay.
And
That's-
and I made myself throw them up. But in my house, what was happening? There was sexual abuse going on, and I was being molested by someone. And I was, like I said, I was like 16, and I couldn't think of any way to get out of it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the rest of my life. Like, I just felt like it was going to be forever. And I know when people like me living in a home with that sort of thing, and your your circle's so small, like it's not the kind of thing you want to go and tell
Right.
your neighbors or your girlfriends or or
Right.
anything.
Or your teachers, or,
or your teachers.
it's hard to know.
Yeah.
It's part of why it's so important for kids to have adults, safe adults to talk with that aren't their parents.
Oh, totally.
I mean, because, it doesn't mean that their parents are bad people. It's just that the parent-child, there's some things that parents can't do for their kids that they
Right.
need other adults for.
Right, right.
Because,
Yeah, we find that with Grief Busters, even with
Yeah.
when there's been a death of one of the parents, the kids love the parent that's left so much, they don't want to say anything to upset them.
Right.
And so they just keep it all inside, and that's
Right.
yeah, I love the whole Grief Buster program, and I'm so thankful there are people like you out there. I wish I'd known you when I was younger. but
well,
it's
I'm
so-
glad that you made it through.
I am too. And you know what it was that scared me was my religious background. I grew up Catholic. And I used to believe, I've tweaked my idea about this a bit as an adult, but when I was younger, I really believed that if I had died by suicide, I wouldn't go to heaven. That was our Catholic way. That's what was most on my mind when I did that, and why I stopped. And is religion brought up at all in your?
Definitely, that's something that's definitely for a lot of people a real strength.
Yeah,
It's
good.
like I would never do that because of my religion, or my family, or who would take care of my pets.
Yeah.
People have a lot of reasons to live for, and that's a lot of what we do in our evaluation is try to help them identify that.
Wow.
So we really try to find the points of their life where they have where they find strength.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
What do you suggest when? I guess we'll do it in age groups. Say if
Sure.
young teens think that a friend of theirs might be thinking this way, is there anything that friend can say to stop the suicidal person from following through? There's not like a magic phrase or anything, right? That you can.
No, but it really helps to ask people directly if you're concerned about them. Just ask them directly, are you thinking of killing yourself?
Okay. And by saying that, you're not putting the
You're
idea
not
in their mind?
No, you're not putting it, you're not sugarcoating it. I think being that direct sometimes will shock people into saying, well, yes, I am.
Okay.
Because if you make it easy, what you'd never want to say, and I almost don't want to say it because I don't want somebody to hear it, is
Right.
you don't ask, you're not thinking of killing yourself, are you?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
you're making it easy for them to say, no. That's
Right.
why you need to really ask the question very directly.
Yes.
Are you thinking of hurting or killing yourself?
Right. Okay.
And if they, oh, no. Well, okay, well, you can always follow up with, have you ever thought about that? Well, and they hopefully they'll tell you.
Yeah.
I think the fact of asking the direct question will surprise a lot of people who are thinking it, and I think they'll be honest with people.
So if you're a teenager and you're not able to drive yet, you guys are all still living at home, and a friend tells you they are thinking of that, what's the teen supposed to do with that info?
Well, I would talk to my friend, if if it was us and you
Yeah.
told me that, and try to talk you out of it and say, we need to get some help, and who can we talk to?
And since you're not old enough to drive them to a hospital or to
Right.
mental health, you have to tell an adult probably.
And if I was a teenager in that position, I would want to find an adult because I would probably be freaking out a bit, going,
Yeah.
wow, I'm not sure I have all the tools to handle this.
Right. Right.
And so I would be trying to figure out, well, who can I tell? And they're, no, you can't tell. It's like, no, we have to deal with this.
Yeah.
So hopefully this program will give people some information so people will be a little more open to that, going, okay, because like you said, hey, you're the good guys and you're supportive, and it's like,
Yeah.
that's what we want to do. We want to help you with that,
Yeah.
not put a label on you.
Right.
If you truly need to be hospitalized because you're just suffering from a serious depression, that's to help you out.
Yeah. Because there is a difference between, like you were saying, thinking of suicide because of a situation that's happening right now, and the other would be a depression, which is a long,
Longer
drawn-out
term.
thing, which they could get help for also with medication or counseling.
Right, right. And usually it's some of both.
Some of both, yeah.
Because the counseling helps you give you tools, because the medication's not a magic bullet.
Okay.
It's not gonna make it disappear like taking an aspirin, and a couple of hours the headache's gone.
Right.
It doesn't work that quickly.
I wish, right?
And yeah, and we all need tools, and
Yeah.
we all run into problems in life that we don't have the tools to solve, and
Yeah.
hopefully we can help people with, for lack of a better word, mental health type tools.
Yeah.
With helping your mental and emotional health. We learn a lot of habits, like we talked about self-talk, and a lot of people get in the habit of very negative self-talk, and
Yeah.
that doesn't make you feel very good.
No, it doesn't. And it's really hard to turn off, though, if that's what you've heard your whole life. It's
that's-
that tape recorder. You just keep playing it yourself.
Right, so that's where the counseling piece comes in.
Yeah.
The medication's not going to necessarily stop
Right,
that, but
right.
the counseling, you can start catching yourself and going, oh, because those are skills that you can learn.
Yeah.
So
Very good.
that's the good side of it, is
Yeah.
you can learn these skills.
So what about, so another situation, what if an adult is told by someone else's child that they have had these thoughts, and maybe that parent's not the person that you want to go tell because they're the one not causing it, but
If they're part of the problem,
is an
then-
adult able to bring someone else's child in to talk to you, or you
that
need the
gets a little more
parent's permission?
tricky.
Yeah, what happens?
I guess it depends. If it's at a school, then the school will often advise the parent that, hey, we have concern about your child and we're taking them over for an evaluation of mental
Okay.
health. And then we'll start the evaluation.
What if it's your next door neighbor?
Well, I guess part of it is trying to be a supportive adult to that, and a resource to that child.
Okay.
And if it's, and you can talk to the child and see if there is a family member that can help them out,
Okay.
because maybe they have an aunt or an uncle.
True, true.
They can certainly call our crisis line and ask for some support.
Okay.
and
Do you
say,
happen to know that number by heart?
We have a local number that's 754-3239,
Okay.
and that nighttime that rolls over to our crisis number.
Okay.
We also have a toll-free number, which is 800-499-3030.
Okay. And so the adult can call you and ask you for some
Sure, they can always
some
call and talk
advice.
to our worker of the day, who can give them some good advice on that particular situation.
Okay.
Because every situation, there's always a lot of variety.
Right. Do you notice any theme with all these suicides that we have had in the past, and especially the ones that are more recent? Is there some sort of theme or something that we should all be looking out for? Or maybe people who belong to different organizations could do something to help if there's something in common?
That's an interesting question. I don't know that I can say that there's anything in common, except that they all feel that they came to the end of their rope,
Yeah.
of their ability to hold on. Certainly with older adults, a lot of the times it's a health issue, and it's kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. I mean, you asked about the fire, and some people have asked us, well, do you think the fire is leading people to kill themselves? By itself, no,
Right.
but it's one more thing. And
Yeah.
so if that was a factor, it certainly wasn't the only factor, and it, unfortunately, I mean, the way I read it, and I think most people in the mental health profession would read it, is they already had a lot of other stuff going on,
Yeah.
and they weren't at their peak of coping, already, and this was just sort of one more thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know that we know that for sure
Right.
about any of those victims. So.
Well, speaking of the
Suicide
fire,
victims.
and maybe they're not suicidal, but they've got to be depressed and under huge amounts of stress,
It's a huge
especially with the
stressor.
holidays coming.
Yeah.
Is mental health or behavioral health going out to these areas to meet with people that can't come to see you, or how is that working out?
What we've done is we have been sending people out to their social services has some outstations, and now that's actually a really good question. The state of California got a grant from FEMA, and they contacted behavioral health to help them. There's a new program that they're starting. It's for disaster responses in California. It's called California Hope.
Okay, very good.
So this is the first time that they've done it in California. It actually developed as a result of several disasters in a row in Colorado. They had about 3 major disasters in 2 years, and they kind of got to the point of like, well, we don't want to keep reformulating disaster response teams.
Right.
So they came up with something for Colorado, and I can't remember what it is.
Okay.
But in California, it's California Hope.
And
It's helping opportunity. Didn't bring the flyer with
that's
me.
okay. That's okay.
So we are working with them to get people. We got some staff trained, and also we have a community member trained, and we're looking to get some other community members
Oh, good.
involved with this. And they're going out doing crisis counseling. So they're trained. It's not mental health counseling. It's crisis counseling.
Okay.
It's strictly focused on. Mostly, it's providing a listening ear,
Right.
and then helping people identify their strengths and sort of come up with a plan and how to move on from here.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
I'm so glad you guys
yeah.
got that grant and are able to do that.
yeah, I don't have it. We're working on getting a phone number set up for California Hope.
Okay.
It actually just started this week. We have folks going out to Mountain Ranch, West Point right now, and Railroad Flat and Moke Hill.
Oh, perfect.
So they're going to go out to each of those areas one day a week and visit people, and we're going to have a line where people can call in and say, I'd like to make an appointment. I'd like to have you come out to me and talk to me.
Yeah.
So it's
Oh,
a service
good.
that's provided out in the community. It's not nobody's going to an office waiting anywhere, and we have staff that are also taking with them information on a variety of other programs and taking
That's
that with
awesome.
them. So
I was going to say, I hope you get a lot of phone calls. You know what I mean by that?
Right, yeah.
I hope the people who need you reach out
People
and call
reach
you.
out, yes.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here and
Sure,
telling us all
thank you.
about this. You guys do awesome work.
Thank you.
Yeah, make me want
Thanks
to
for
cry.
having me.
I love what you do. I'm so happy that you're here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time on Tammy's Window on Calaveras.